let's start talking about finance within the sustainability space within mobility. Talk to me a little bit about how we're currently seeing finance within smarter mobility. Fatima, maybe we start with you.
Thank you very much. Maybe just to do a first introduction. I mean, I think to understand the sector financing is very important to bring the issue of urban transport in the context of African cities. Urban transport in general in Africa is dominated by the informal sector, by the private sector, but actually informal. So actually, in general, the current operators that operate in public transport have huge issues to be able to get access to finance, and is a market that is very fragmented. They don't have accounting records. Many times they don't have any assets to back up any type of finances. To actually the existing market and existing operators have very limited access to financing in many instances. Through commercial banks, and whenever they have access to finance, that finance tend to be very expensive. No, so I think maybe this is some of the issues we're going to be discussing today. Actually, how government could support this access into finance to operators in African cities.
Thank you very much, Fatima. And I see Gad has just joined us. Welcome, Gad. Are you well?
Oh, yes, I'm very well. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's great to have you with us. I think at this point in the conversation, I'm going to say farewell. And Gad, you are ready to take over as the lead moderator on this panel.
All right. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hi, Gad.
Yeah, hi. Glad to be here. So today we are talking about sustainable mobility and financing, which is basically money. Now, I want to jump right in because I think I came a bit late. About a week ago, I was talking to one of the transport owners on the continent. They do intercity, they do intracity, and they also do international bus service. And I wanted to restrict our conversation to how do you call it, land transport, because that is what most of our people experience on a daily basis. Now, when I was talking to him, he gave a very interesting story about their financing structure. According to him, they normally raise loans, bank loans, for to finance their vehicles, and then they have a repayment plan. However, with the COVID-19 and the lockdown that it brought about, as I'm talking to you now, Ghana, we still have our borders closed. What happened is that they went to see their banks about working on their interest plans, but the bank refused, that they cannot sort out their interest plans. So today, they have to find ways of paying interest for buses that they cannot use, because those buses are meant for international transport. All right, that is one. He also spoke about the fact that the nature of their business is an individual who owns the company. Okay, so that has implications for raising equity capital. Now, in this platform, and this story that I just described, it applies to most of the people in the transport space. They are individual transport owners. They are doing their business. They have challenges with accessing capital. Maponya, how do you see finance in the transport space, in the African transport context, in terms of accessibility? Hello? Hello?
Hi, Gad.
Yeah.
I didn't hear whose name you called.
for that question.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I was calling your name if I got it
Okay,
wrong.
my name, Nanga.
Wait, it's not Maponya, right?
Maponya is my second name, yes. Thank you.
Okay. So please, the question was, how do you see access to capital for those in the transport space? What are the barriers for us here in Africa?
Okay. So for me, I have a slightly different take on the relationship between finance and the need for funding in the transport sector. In that, as financiers and investors, we tend to be a lot more responsive. We don't see ourselves as part of a solution for the actual system. We respond to how the market or how the industry wants to move. And in some cases, if the industry moves in a way that doesn't make us comfortable, then we almost feel like we don't know how to respond. We have no way to navigate the system and be able to provide the necessary financing. So I always introduce myself as an investor activist for women-centric transport. And this is why I'm so passionate about this. I believe that as we talk about economic growth and we talk about economic opportunities, we need to involve the entire population. And as we stand, I believe that the infrastructure does not give access to women to participate in economic activities. The way the transport systems are designed, they are designed for an average male. They are not accommodative for the total population, particularly for women. Lastly, if you want to see the growth that we want to see, we need to then be part of a solution and say, what is it in the transport system that can contribute towards the growth that we're looking for? And this is why these things are so important to me. I believe strongly that the public transport systems, as they are, and the infrastructure are designed by men for men, and they make women vulnerable. Secondly, women are marginalized and excluded from opportunities because of this issue. Lastly is that, in my view, when a woman is 16, the current system then does not move her along her career goals up until, let's say, the age of 36. This is the most active ages of a normal being. So this is the issue for me, is the transport system needs to be a solution or an enabler towards economic participation and therefore economic growth. So as investors as financiers,
inclusion.
Pardon?
Inclusion for women. Inclusion for women.
Inclusive of women. Yes. So as financiers, what is it that we want to see? I'm glad in this panel, a lot of us are development financiers. What is it that we want to see with the money that we put into the projects? Do we want to see individual projects delivered, money coming back to us, and we make the return that we're looking for? Or we want to see real transformation? And if we want to see real transformation, we need to then start thinking differently about who the client is the general client base accommodated in the entire system? Are we solving for the bigger picture, or are we solving for the individual project issues? So in Africa, a bigger part of the transport system is operated by paratransit. The paratransit system is underrepresented in terms of how the infrastructure is financed, how government budgets for transport systems. And in particular, it's the most convenient and the most reliable system. However, the least efficient system of all the systems. And because of that, there's high difficulties in accessing finance because of the way it is informal, the way it is operated, the way it's run. So as investors, my view is we need to be putting in a head of being part of a solution. What is it that we're trying to solve for? we have that pool of capital, but we have on the other side an industry that is not able to access that capital. And why is that? And I believe for me is it the issue of us removing ourselves and be able and acting as a response to something that is happening in the industry. And in most cases, we're not able to respond because our systems and our products are not suited for how the industry is currently structured. So I leave it there for now.
I think you have touched on a very important point, the fact that our systems, the finance system and the transport system, there seems to be a major disconnect. Fatima, what is your take on this point that Maponya has raised, and also the role of women? Because as she was talking, I was just trying to take my mind back. I don't know in the transport value chain the role that can say that there are a lot of ladies. Okay, be it ownership, operations, maintenance, maybe the finance space, but I don't really see women in the space. I don't see the interest from women also. I agree that the system is not designed to include them both. It's Fatima.
Thank you very much, Gad. Following up with my colleague was mentioning, I mean, I think that the transport sector in an African context in general, it has very, very important difficulties to access to finance because of the structure of the operating sector. In general, is very fragmented. They don't have any accounting records. They don't have assets to back up the financing. So that limits a lot the capacity to get access to finance, and whenever they get access, it's a very, very high cost. So, I mean, for me, I think that it will be important actually that government support actually and put in place certain incentives to little by little start to integrate these operators that right now are informal into a more formalized system. And we have some interesting examples. For example, we have a colleague from Lagos, and Lagos there's very interesting examples on how government supported the access to finance to organize informal operators. There is examples in Maputo, in Senegal. So I think that we see some interesting examples on how government had been supporting these informal operators in this first push to get access to finance, and then to showcase how they can put in place a business models that is sustainable in time. What I think it is also in an African context, we have few examples of success of this kind of organized informal operators that are able to run sustainable models of public transport, but we still have limited numbers of them. And I think we need to demonstrate those examples more. In a way, we need to, cities in the continent should make an effort to put in place this kind of demonstration projects that can show the investors that this is something where they should be putting the money. And I think on the other side, governments have a very important role to play, setting up the rules of the games, the regulations in the sector, putting incentives, helping the private sector this first push to get access to finance, and building up this enabling environment that I think we might be discussing later on. I think there is another very important point for this context in Africa, that it is the affordability and of public transport. I think when we think about the sustainability of operations, we need to think thinking about the cost side, but also on the revenue side. And then for the revenue side, it's kind of like very easy to say we should increase fares to make these business models more sustainable. But this is at the same time a difficult decisions when we are thinking about context and cities that have huge levels of poverty. So if we want to do a system, a public transport system that is inclusive for the poor, actually, governments will think very carefully about a fair policy that actually it can be inclusive to different groups. I think thinking about talking about inclusion, I think that the second part of the question that you are asking at, it is about women and the role of women in transport. I think that the issue of the role of women as a users or as a workers in the sector is a topic that we have not been talking enough. And very recently, we have seen a lot of research and a lot of effort from different governments to understand better which are the constraints of women to use public transport, or the constraints of women to be able to also to be part of the working force of the sector. I believe that we are still learning about it, and there is I think as a first step, an important effort that is being done to gather more evidence and to understand exactly what are the constraints for women. I think we have seen in general that in most of the cities, the design of public transport has been mainly focused on the peak hour commuter trip, that is basically mainly in many societies focused on men mobility, because in many societies men are the ones that in general go to work, and women stay with kids and take care of kids at home, or have another role in society. So I think more and more there is this thinking towards seeing how to integrate women into the public transport planning. So I think maybe I will stop here, Gad, and I will over to you.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. Jean, as one of the three men on the panel, I think now we're in the majority. Anyway, as somebody whose organization is a combination of public cities that are interested in finance, what will you say, number one, to the 2 points that our very eloquent ladies have raised? And number two, what will be your wish list, okay, in order to make it easy for financing in Africa?
Thank you very much, Gad, for letting me to invite me to speak on that. First of all, I need to say that I fully agree with what Fatima and Nangamso, sorry if I misspell your name, have said previously, and also on the fact that on transport there is a crucial need to integrate all the ecosystem of stakeholders. Because cities alone cannot finance public transport, so they need to have a constructive dialogue with the central governments, but also with private operators, with donors, in order to see what are the options and what is needed, because cities cannot finance alone, but also the public transport is not usually a profitable sector. Because cities need to deliver transport to all kind of population, leaving no one behind, and particularly the most vulnerable and those who cannot afford to pay public transport in the same way as some other citizens. So this is a crucial point for me. It's how to build up the ecosystem of stakeholders in order to to see what are the condition of financing transport for everyone, including the most vulnerable population. The second critical point for me is for cities, but also for public authorities, to have to access to the necessary data in order to see how to invest and how to project your investment. Because when you invest in transport, you invest for the next 20 years, and you need to see how your city will be shaped in 20 years. What are the different trends of transportation in your territory, and how this is going to move. We know that in Africa, by 2050, urban population will double, which means that we will need to build the equivalent of urban infrastructures as China has built in its history. So the challenges are massive. But for transport particularly, we need to better access data in order to project where the investment are needed and what are the priorities. And we cannot go blind on those data and to try to see that we need to invest in such transport, in such line, and in such area. So that's the most another critical point for me. And another one that Fatima mentioned is the informality. We know that in Africa, in many cities, informality is running the public transport. I call it semi-informality, because usually the city is in dialogue, in discussion with those informal private operators, but then there is no real consensus on tariff, on the routes, but also on the different condition that makes transport affordable and safe for everyone. And so, how to integrate informality into an investment plan? That's something also quite crucial, and I guess dialogue is something important. And then also to demonstrate to the informality operators, to the informal operators, that being integrated as formal can also be profitable for them. We've done their job in Madagascar and Antananarivo, and we organized a dialogue between the ministry, the city of Antananarivo, and the private operators that were informal. And we demonstrated them that being integrated into the formal system that the city was setting up will be more profitable for them, and they will be able to buy new buses that are cleaner for the environment and safer for the users. So everybody will gain if you show that the business models are well developed and particularly for those who are operating the system. But now to finish on your question, Gad, on what will be the best scenario for a city is that first of all, a city has a mobility plan for the next 20 years, a mobility plan that is based on the data that are collected on the territory, in order to be sure that there is no misunderstanding on the need of the territory. Two, that the city is developing a constructive dialogue with the ministries and also the different stakeholders, like the users, but also the private operators, in order to be sure that the choice is the good one, and that the investment choice will not be put in danger in the next 5 years, for example. And lastly, also to have a constructive dialogue with the donors. I really believe, like Fatima was saying, that donors have a crucial role also to play with the cities in urban mobility, in order to demonstrate that solutions are existing, and that these need to be developed, demonstrated, in order to attract potential other investors, and also to secure the different stakeholders engaged on that. Public authorities, donors such as DBSA, but also the future private investors that are still seeing this market as a quite risky one. And maybe I will finish by saying that it's also a quite big issue for a mayor to see where to invest on urban mobility. When you see that in some cities, 80% of the mobility is done by walking, and that donors and investors are prioritizing the public transport like buses or trams, it's like a challenge. It's also to make this choice of investing in this kind of solutions when most of your population is still walking or taking like an individual motorbike. I'm not saying that's the good option to support this motorbike and so on, but it's still also a political choice that we need to support mayors in order to formulate the systemic solution for transport, not just one solution, but how to integrate it into a systemic. And these will allow mayors and ministers to make the right choices in terms of investment, because otherwise it raises the risk, and donors and investors won't come if they see that there is no clear plan on the business model, but also on the long-term strategy. I will finish there. Thanks.
Okay, you raised a very important point about informality. In our work as AfricaNEV, one of the things we have realized is that the informality is actually the major cause for a lot of the barriers. And you see that across the continent, there seems to be some variance. South Africa is, let's say, is an exceptional case. Okay, when you're talking about transport, put South Africa in a box. Then you talk about the rest of the continent. All right, because you spoke about how do you call it, public transport. In most of Africa, public transport does not, as in public transport organized by the government, does not really work. That is why we have the Okades, the Borders, and the Matatus and the Trotters. They are a private reaction to the failure of the public transport systems that we ought to have. All right. So the informality, I think that if we are planning with it, it's going to help all of us. If you are thinking that we can formalize, I don't think that is a sustainable strategy, because we have been proving time and time again that it's not working. However, these so-called informal people also have associations. In Ghana, we have the Ghana Private Road Transport Union, we have the Protuas. Okay, so maybe that would be the next question I will ask you, whether you have thought about ways of dealing with them at this level, because that is what they understand. Unfortunately, a lot of our people who go into transport, most of them are not so well educated. So it tends to be a challenge. Obafemi, I think we'll end with you. We have only 1 minute remaining. Lagos, how are you working on making financing easy? Because Lagos is a typical African city. So we have the cost, people taking money from the transport owners. We have bad road networks. All this increases operating costs.
Yes, thank you very much. I hope I just don't have a minute to speak. Can you hear me?
Yes. You have a minute or so.
Yes, I have been listening carefully to our distinguished panelists, and I obviously is the best way to approach this is to talk about the Lamata experience. But before I go into that, I want to acknowledge what the ladies have said about the inclusiveness of women in public transport. In fact, right now, Lamata is part of a research, international research being done by HVT Applied Research, focusing on this very subject. So we have your back, my dear lady, and it's something that we really need to solve so that we can improve our designs, our plans, and implementation of public transport. Now, going straight to Lamata, I think, when Lamata was established 17 years ago, the whole public transport in Lagos is completely disorganized. There's no question about that. And that's why Lamata was brought in. But when it comes to the issue of financing, because of the way we started, we were funded by the World Bank. So our investment plans tailored around World Bank funding, at the beginning. We've had the Lagos Urban Transport Project 1, LUTP2, and also got in the AFD involved. But the question is, there's a limit to which they can do. In fact, the World Bank would tell you that they're probably less than a 1% solution to the problem of infrastructure development in less developed countries. It still has to do with your own capacity from within to be able to put these things done. So Lamata started with preparing a strategic transport master plan, which focuses on delivering an integrated public transport system for Lagos. A combination of bus rapid transit, lightweight transit, inner city buses, and all that. And so here lies the issue now. We've done this for quite a number of years now, but now, like I said, there's a limit to which international donors can do. You have to be able to build the capacity from within to be able to design, plan, and implement these projects. But the major problem we're having, not only in Nigeria, but also other African countries, is the issue of country risks. That's the biggest problem. I mean, investors, lenders, equity holders will not put their money down. They know that they cannot recoup their investments. And political instability, price instability, foreign exchange fluctuations, all these things contribute to the fact that it's always difficult to access, financing from abroad. So I've always said one thing. Why do we keep looking for financing from abroad? Have we looked inward enough? As far as I'm concerned, in Nigeria, we haven't. I'm very glad that the present governor of Lagos has brought this on board because he was a former banker himself. We've started to look inwards now. The Blue Line Rail project, which I'm sure you're all aware of, we've been struggling to implement for the past 10 years. We're only trying to finish it now. But this governor has taken a step forward. As a former banker, he's now been able to raise capital from within the banking sector to finish the Blue Line and also to develop the Red Line, which is a major rail project that cuts across Lagos. So we need to look inwards. We've got in many cases a good banking system. We've got a good financing system. We've got pension funds and all those kind of things. I think efforts should be geared towards getting the capital markets, the financial capital from within to understand what the problems are and to help us, provide financing for some of our projects. That's the way we want to go.
I'm gonna hop in there if I can, please, Gad, quickly.
Yes.
Yes,
Thank you very much.
sorry, we have gotten to a little bit of a tight crunch there in terms of time.
No problem.
But thank you very much to the whole panel and to Gad for a very informative panel. I'm very excited to see the progress in terms of including women in the future plans of development within smarter mobility systems. So thank you very much for that. And thank you, Gad, for being here with us.